Okay, so you got this fig tree, you brought it home, or you rooted a cutting and made a fig tree. Now, how do you take care of it? All right, so let me start by saying that you have to keep in mind that your fig tree is a subtropical deciduous tree. That means that once your tree wakes up in the spring, you cannot expose it to any freezing temperatures. You must always make sure the climate around it is above zero, especially at night. So let's start. We're going to start right from the bottom, right in your pot and your planting medium. When you uppot your fig tree, I generally don't like to go much bigger than the pot that it's in right now because you don't want your planting medium to be too wet. And when there's a large area of your planting medium that does not contain roots to uptake water, it generally will become very wet, which causes it to be moldy later on. So work yourself up to a bigger pot little by little. The other thing is the growing medium that you're using. You can pretty much use any good potting mix if you're keeping your fig tree in a pot. I generally like to add some compost to the potting mix and a little bit more perlite than what it usually contains so that your soil will be more airy and it doesn't hold as much water. I also like to add some drainage holes in the bottom of the pot so that the water doesn't stay in there. When your soil is dry, your fig tree needs a good dose of water. You can water it until the water comes out of the drainage hole at the bottom, and then leave it and let the soil dry so that about 1 inch below the surface it feels dry. And then you can rewater it. Don't be afraid to stick your finger in the planting medium and feel the moisture. You can get one of these moisture meters, but I found them to be pretty unreliable unless you're buying an expensive one. Your finger is your best tool. Okay, so number two is your tree. Your tree should be in a sunny area and in an area that gets lots of heat. Fig trees love heat. And if you compare my temperature here right now, which is about 10 degrees Celsius above zero, to the temperature where fig trees originally come from, which is the Middle East, they're getting temperatures of around 30 degrees Celsius right now. So, yeah, lots of sun. If you live in an area that gets extreme heat, like somewhere down south, and your fig tree is in a pot, especially in a black pot, you want to watch that the temperature inside that pot doesn't get overly hot and cooks your roots. But living up here where I am, that should not be a problem. The other thing is that you need to decide what shape you want to prune your tree to. Fig trees are very versatile and that you can prune them any way that suits you. I like to prune mine into a tree shape. I generally let the trunk grow till about 12 to 18 inches, and then I like to achieve a vase-like shape, having about 3 to 4 branches. And this will create a nice healthy atmosphere within the center of your tree and open your branches up to maximum sun exposure. Now, one thing that you have to do when you own a fig tree or any other plant actually is to keep your eye on it. Okay, generally fig trees need a lot less attention than most other plants, but that doesn't mean that you could just throw it outside and not worry about it, never look at it, and just wait for it to pop out a bunch of figs so you can pick them and eat. You need to constantly inspect your tree. Make sure there's no weird insects on it. Make sure there's no ants circling around it. Incredibly, ants can be very dangerous to a fig tree and many other plants, if they start climbing up and down the tree, they could be planting scale on your tree, which is a whole other category. And I'm not going to get into that right now, but basically inspect your leaves, inspect your branches, look for any holes in your wood. Every day you should be checking your tree, and if you see something, you got to research what to do about it. You can write me a message. I'm always available to help you out. All right, number 3 is nutrition. Your tree needs nutrition. Every living thing in this world, and humans included, needs some sort of nutrition. And for trees and plant, even grass, that comes in the form of plant food or fertilizer. Don't just water your tree and wonder why it's not doing so well. Watering is very important, but you also have to feed your tree. All you need to know is the beginning of the season, for the first month, you need to be giving your tree a fertilizer that's high in nitrogen. For example, this Miracle Grow All-Purpose is high in nitrogen. And I know that by looking here at the label, and I could see the number 24, the first number. This represents the amount of nitrogen in this particular plant food. Any fertilizer or plant food, whether organic or chemical, they will always have these 3 numbers on them somewhere in the front, in the back. These 3 numbers represent NPK. An easy way to remember this is you need more N in the beginning of the season, more P in the middle of the season, and more K at the end of the season. So N is the nitrogen, P is the phosphorus, and K is the potassium. Nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. In the beginning of the season, to get your trees growing, you need nitrogen. Nitrogen will help your tree put out branches, put out leaves, and get it moving. Now, you don't want to keep pouring on the nitrogen in this kind of an amount after the first month, because then your tree will keep putting out leaves and branches and no figs. And our goal here is to get figs. After the first month, I switched to a fertilizer that's higher in phosphorus, like this tomato fertilizer. You could see the middle number is higher than the all-purpose. Phosphorus helps your tree put out its fruit and helps with the fruit development. Finally, the potassium is what gives your tree its overall health and root development. So the way that I do it is I would take a look at the recommended levels, and I would just use half the recommended levels to avoid hurting the tree. This way, you will not have a chance to hurt your tree. So whatever it says here, I would use half the amount. So if it says mix 22 millimeters in 6 liters of water every 7 to 14 days, I would mix 11 milliliters in 6 liters of water every 7 to 14 days. And personally, I do that every 7 days. And I would cut the fertilizer 1 month before your first freeze. So generally for me, end of September. That's pretty much all you need to do to keep your fig tree healthy and giving you delicious figs. Thanks for watching. Please like, subscribe, share, and leave me any comments if you have any questions.